Hey folks, we're going a little more spooky this week with my top horror faves across 10 subgenres. The absolutely excellent Nightwatch Zone put out the call, and I'm always up to talk movies. So let's get this party started. Without further ado, the first subgenre is found footage. The obvious choice here could be the Blair Witch Project, which was a phenomenon for the way it was marketed and the trail it blazed for found footage. But I'm going with something just a little bit different. Cloverfield probably straddles the line between horror and sci-fi, but there are enough bump-in-the-night moments where I'd say it qualifies. Now, the characters can be considered a little forgettable, and the plot is so-so. But the way we get a first-person perspective of a kaiju attack makes this a personal fave. There's no emotion for the monster, just destruction. And when the Statue of Liberty's head comes crashing into the scene, you know full well you're in deep shit. Because this is found footage, there was an honest sense of dread where you know that no matter what the main characters do, none of them are likely going to survive this monstrous scenario. It's an interesting movie in my book, and 10 Cloverfield Lane is pretty great too. Cloverfield Paradox, however, well, let's not discuss that. Up next is zombie flicks. There was a checklist that came to mind while deciding my pick. Fast or slow zombies, Walking Dead or rage-induced, zombies as social commentary, or zombies that just fuck everything up, no questions asked. And then the most important question, funny or serious? Since my go-to is generally comedy, we end up with what I consider to be one of the greatest of all times, that being Edgar Wright's amazing Shaun of the Dead. Endlessly quotable, heartfelt, and just fucking amazing. The first entry in the Cornetto trilogy finds a way to balance humor, heart, and a shit ton of gore in a way that looks relatively simple, but is anything but easy. The entire cast is on point, but Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are a comedy duo that can't be beat. Now let's go to the Winchester, have a nice cold pint, and wait for all of this to blow over. I had a hard time with Paranormal. It's probably my favorite subgenre, but ultimately I got it down to 2. The main character's haunting in It Follows was outside the box and done in a way that I absolutely love. The weirdly vast expanses of Detroit as a backdrop was also incredibly eye-opening. Ultimately, I did decide to go with Hereditary. The opening dollhouse shot alone blew my mind and hooked me in for what would become an incredible ride. From an acting perspective, I only need to mention Toni Collette's incredible performance, and you know exactly what I mean. I will say that the ending felt a little strange, but overall this was a hell of a ride that I would definitely take again, as long as I keep my head inside the window. Okay, honest moment. For a variety of reasons, torture porn really isn't my thing. But that's not downgrading the genre because there are some incredible entries. Although it probably falls on the relatively light end of the genre, Saw is one of those that I could watch over and over again. It gave us an incredible indie movie thanks to the amazing work of James Wan and Leigh Whannell, well-established actors in Carrie Hughes, Danny Glover, and Tobin Bell, and a relatively straightforward but intricate story. One of my favorite things about good indie movies is their ability to look at the story that they want to tell and work inside of their budgets and circumstances to create something great, and Saw does this beautifully. Now the sequels are a mixed bag of good and bad, but the innovation, foresight, and creativity that went into this will never cease to be awesome to me. Next up is a vampire movie that doesn't suck, and that's What We Do in the Shadows. The fun of this one is just a total chef's kiss. It's cheeky and pokes at the tropes without ever being disrespectful. The idea of a documentary following a group of vampires and how they deal with things day to day is just the most fun. And it was pulled off thanks to the incredible direction of Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement. If you haven't seen this one, you absolutely must check it out. And the recent TV show is a fucking hoot as well. The range of werewolf movies is so incredibly vast, and they face a unique set of issues. How do you make a human-sized wolf creature stand out? What variations can you do while keeping it under the werewolf umbrella? And how do you make the transformation stand apart? I considered the great standards like American Werewolf in London or the classic Universal Wolfman, but ultimately I decided on a fave from a studio that had to face all of these issues from Universal themselves. That company is Hammer Studios, and the movie is 1961's Curse of the Werewolf. Although not unique by today's standards, Terence Fisher's classic turned the genre on its head, with one of the key differences being a white werewolf instead of the traditional black or gray. It also went away from the well-trod idea of someone being bitten by a werewolf and went with the notion of a baby being born on Christmas Day. It's not a movie that offers much of any positive outcomes for any of the characters, but it's a fascinating movie and well worth a watch. Next up is Home Invasion, and the movie is Us. Where to start with this one? Interesting story, dynamic visuals, or go straight to the heart of it with the dual performances of Lupita Nyong'o. I really liked Get Out, but there's something about Us that just caught me off guard. I'm not sure that I can define it, other than to say that I keep coming back to it. Jordan Peele is just such an incredible director, and its overarching commentary can be biting. But at its core, it's just a damn good movie that holds you in suspense. You feel for the parties on both sides of this conflict, and while I'm normally good at predicting movie endings, this one left me shocked. The sci-fi subgenre is another vast one, but I'm going back to an 80s fave. Frank Henenlotter's Basket Case is another indie movie that just works so damn well. The crew stretched every dollar to the max to fulfill a vision much bigger than its budget should have allowed for. They pulled out all the stops to make a movie that was genuinely creepy, and absolutely nothing looks half-assed. Belial was brought to life via puppetry, guy in a suit, and stop motion. The use of the basket as an awkward icebreaker, means of transport, and metaphor for the baggage Dwayne lugs around is inspired. This one has unexpected moments of comedy, tragedy, and just some really good gory moments. Foreign horror offers us some of the best in the genre, and there's a lot that I could choose from, but I had to go back to the first one that I ever saw, and that's 1920's Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. I straight up love this movie. The use of light and shadow, the way the story changes due to an unreliable narrator, and its ability to convey a true feeling of dread with a single look. No stingers, no jump scares. Now, silent movies in general had no choice but to do this, but the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari has a special way of doing it that still sends shivers down my spine after several watches. Finally, we have slasher films, a genre packed to the brim with blood, guts, and interesting kills. That last one is a lot of how I define my favorites, and I narrowed it down to some weird ones that still manage some pretty inspired kills. Cabin in the Woods is a classic example of awesome kills. And I'm still waiting for that Merman spin-off. The Banana Splits movie, for whatever it is plot-wise, pulled off some masterfully fun kills. But I'm settling on Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. Now, bear with me, I know that there are a lot of movies that have some amazing kills. Tucker and Dale is one that I can watch endlessly, and I'm sorry, but a wood chipper kill always wins the day for me. This movie is a trope buster, and it's done in such a cheeky way by these two sweet, if slightly oblivious, new vacation homeowners. If you haven't seen this, it is a must-watch that ranks right up there with Shaun of the Dead for pure awesomeness. So there are my 10 horror picks across 10 subgenres. I appreciate you hanging through my choices. Now it's my turn to pick a few reviewers to share their faves. But I promise a deranged space llama will not show up at your house if you choose not to take part. There's no requirement, it's just a fun thing to do if you'd like to. I would like to ask you to check out these creators as they put out some fantastic content that's well worth a look. All links will be in the description below. First up is Anthropomantic Fiend. Martin does movie reviews and readings in a gothic style that's one of a kind. He's got all the background you want and an entertaining sense of delivery that will keep you coming back. The Movie Oracle is a treasure trove of horror movie reviews and rankings. Ashley has watched more horror movies than anyone I know, and her knowledge is astonishing. Next up is Narcotic Casserole. John is a master of movie and pop culture knowledge. His deep dives into horror movies and Doctor Who content just scratch the surface of his amazing channel. Finally is Morbid Heart Designs. Angela has such a gift for art, mixed with a deep love of movies and a wicked sense of humor. Don't miss whatever she's got coming up next. Make sure to check out these incredible reviewers, drop a sub if you like what you see, and thanks so very much for watching.